Again, as we would do kind of a short question and answer. I'd like everybody to kind of introduce themselves in case there are people that don't know who is on stage. And again, I'm Jonathan Stiles with the Ballet.
I'm Scott Gormley, the producer and director of the film.
I'm the artistic director of Pennsylvania Ballet. I'm Peter Lyle. I'm a soloist of Pennsylvania Ballet. I'm Jim Payne. I'm the school director for Pennsylvania Ballet.
So we'll take some questions from the audience in a second. I think I would start, full disclosure for people that don't know me, I started taking ballet when I was 6 years old. That film that I saw struck a lot of personal chords for me, and I was fortunate enough to have a supportive mother in particular that helped me through school and through a career here with this company. I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about why this film came about and the genesis for it.
Sure. I was actually in the process of making a different film when my son, who is a dancer, went through exactly what so many people described in the film. And while we watched him go through it, I did what everybody does, and I went to Google and started doing some research and came across the staggering statistics that you saw on the screen, done by Doug Reisner at Wayne State, who does a lot of dance-related data gathering. And when I found those numbers, I knew I had to make this film, and I kind of put out the request to some dancers to see if anybody had experienced anything like what my son was going through, and I'm so thankful Peter was actually one of the first people that I actually got an opportunity to speak to, and it just really snowballed from there. But it's been very much a passion project of mine, obviously. It's very personal to me for the better part of 4 years. So.
That's wonderful. Are there any questions at this point from the audience? Please just shoot a hand up. Yes? So there's a question about in memory of some of the dancers at the end there.
Sure. Unfortunately, the young boy, Alexei, was struck and killed by someone who was texting and driving as he was crossing the street. And the other gentleman was murdered. It's an unsolved murder in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, God.
Terribly, both of them happened within about 5 weeks of each other, and within about 4 weeks of me filming them. But I'm very, very thankful both families have allowed us to use their footage and their stories to continue to be told through the film.
Yes.
I was actually kind of surprised with like the very younger kids that they were experiencing the bullying, because you see a lot now where high schools, like groups of kids all hang out together. Some are trans, some are openly gay. There's the show Glee. I mean, this all still goes on with that younger generation. It just seems really odd to me.
So the question is about we seem to be a more open society. We seem to be more accepting of people, but there are young dancers that are still being seen, still experiencing that. I don't know. I mean, Peter probably have the most recent experience with that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's a shame that in our society that is supposedly so progressive that there is such a stereotype with it still. And I mean, I can let you know firsthand, it's not gone. And I think it's really easy for kids to latch on to the oddity or the odd one out, quite frankly. And like James said in the video, kids are really honest, and unfortunately they tell you what they think, and in our cases it's very easy for them to slip to, oh, you're gay, and it doesn't matter in the profession that we're in what your sexual orientation is, really. it comes down to when we're on stage performing a character role, you're that character. So you could be gay, you could be straight, and it doesn't matter because you're putting on a character for that role, just like actors do and just like people on Broadway do. You are playing a role. And I segued into that because it's really upsetting for me that there even has to be a distinction of straight or gay, because it doesn't matter, we're dancers. It's along with recently with all the news stuff that happened, and everyone started saying like hashtag boys dance too, and we do, but it's not TOO. We dance. We don't dance too, we dance.
Yes.
Just to add to that, kids, they tell the truth, but the truth that they hear from their parents or their families or the adults. I don't think that it's the same as someone that is racist. I think that little kids are not racist by nature. I think that it's what they hear in their homes, and then they bring it into their schools or into other people. So I think that because there's still an older generation of parents that they think that being a dancer, it goes together with being in a sexual orientation, that I think that that's where it comes from. I don't think that kids naturally are going to think, if you're a dancer, you have to be gay. So,
well, all of this thing was filmed in the U.S., and there was a lot of talk about how the U.S. values ballet. You grew up in Spain, but you were not immune to the issues that were here on the screen. Would you just share a little bit about your story?
Well, I was in a country where, also when I was young, bullfighters and soccer players, it was the best thing to be. So I was the only dancer in the town. I was the only dancer in probably the whole state. So when they find out that I was a dancer, they used to wait for me after school every day and throw rocks at me when I was walking out of the school. I had my two sisters that they were like my bodyguards. They would be, walking me out, and that's why I was so close to my family, because they were my protectors. They always took me under their wings and cared for me. But it's funny because some of those people, I went back to my old town where I grew up. They named a high school of my name, which is kind of incredible. I went for the inauguration of the high school. They put a street under my name, and it was funny. I was walking on the streets, and I was just walking around, and I saw one of my the kids that was in the same class as me, and then he started to sing about a song about faggots. This funny song that they sing to you in Spain if they think that you're gay. And I looked at him, and I thought, really? At this time? And I find out that he works for very, very little money, and he's still making fun of me, and I was like, okay, well, it's pretty sad that you're still thinking that way. But I think that it's insecurities. I think people are whatever is different, they're insecure, and they have to attack that because they don't know. And if you don't know it, if you don't understand it, then you have to. It might be something better than you are, and then that sort of like that insecurity of not knowing if that person it could be better than you. That's what it makes you think, well, maybe I should attack it.
Jim, we were talking earlier, you've got a kind of an interesting perspective. You've lived this, you've raised a son that's gone through dance training, and now you're overseeing our academy. So have you seen things change in that time period? And I would assume that each of those
yes
things
and
have
no.
informed the next thing.
Sometimes I think that the more awareness that's out there, the worse it gets. When there isn't much education that goes along with it. But yeah, it's, I lived through it, had my difficulties with family support, with friend support, and then I thought, okay, I'm set to help my son through it. Same thing, and while I could give the support, and I'm a fixer, so it was really difficult that I couldn't fix it. I couldn't go and talk to all the boys that were giving him a hard time, And it's kind of the same thing now with, you know, I've taught boys for quite a long time. And one of the things that I do, for example, at our summer intensive, it's an opportunity for boys that are in smaller studios to get together. A lot of us came from 1 or 2 or 3 boys in our studio, and then we get, you know, 30 together. I sit them down usually at the end of the week and the first week and open up the discussion. Kind of giving them a secure place to kind of voice concerns or to gain that support from each other. Not necessarily from me, because they don't always want it from the adult that knows the answer, and the adult really doesn't know the answer because it's different for each of them. But to just give them, you know, a place where they can discuss it and find that there is support, that others are going through it. So it's not a commiserate. It's more, okay, so I'm not alone. This is going on. What's so surprising to me is the same issues that I went through, boys are going through now. In particular, support from family. And it doesn't have to be immediate. It could be an uncle, it could be an aunt, it could be you know, a distant relative. But sometimes those comments, you know, we like to think we can shake them off. But after time, they start to eat at us. We try and be above it, and that's the easy thing for me to say to the boys is, oh, don't worry about it, you know, we'll just be above that. But I understand it doesn't work that way. So as far as the changes, unfortunately, not a lot.
Still a ways to go. Other questions from the audience? I think we'll just toss a hand up. Yes?
I think it's great that you're going into schools, you know, to start there and educate kids. Has that been well received?
So going into schools, our community engagement programs do a lot of outreach. We've got 2 programs, 2 of our main programs are in our schools, and so you're having young boys start from a young age. I don't know if anybody has thoughts on whether that's having an impact. I mean, the programs are very well received. We always have schools that want to sign up and want to participate in that. I assume these issues are still there for the boys that are in public schools doing that are taking dance.
Yeah, I think it's a continuation of the previous, what I was talking about with the families. I think the kids, when they see it, most of the times, they're very enthusiastic and they really love it and they really want to be part of it. It's the families that they might encourage for them to follow up and do it, and there are other families that they say there's no way that you're going to be a dancer. I was, in my case, incredibly lucky that my family supported me 200%. My dad, at first, he said, you know, you're going to have problems at school. If you're okay with that, I support you 100%. But there's a lot of parents that they don't, especially the father, like we saw before, that he's like, well, you know, you should do something a little bit more manly. Maybe you want to do, and I think that's exactly why, because they can relate to that. They can relate to you. They can help you play soccer. They can help you play football. They can help you with all these things, but they can't help you to put on your shoes and lift your leg. So I think those things are what are stopping some of the kids from becoming a dancer. The families are not supportive enough. But yeah, the interest is definitely there. There's very few people that they come to our rehearsals or to our outreach programs and they're not, you know, overwhelmed, and they love it and they clap and they laugh and they, you know, they really, really enjoy it. Yeah, I think it's later when they hear the parents saying, well, ballet? Really, ballet? And then they go, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't like it.
Other questions? Over here. Yes, please.
Just to make a comment, you know, ballet and like figure skating and sports like that are so removed from the schools that the kids go to. They don't know it. Like, it's not a part of like the academic or the athleticism of the school. So it seems so much less familiar. And I know it's probably very hard to bring new programs in, and you know, when there are schools that are already cutting back on a lot of athletics and arts programs. But I just feel like if it was something that was more tangible and they didn't have to go to studios and it was removed from, you know, where the kids would see it on a daily basis and see how athletic it was and how physical it was, that would make a difference for them. But I guess that's just something that is not attainable in the current school systems.
Yeah, so the question, the comment was about, you know, we don't really have robust dance programs in public schools, and it's not a daily basis. I mean, I think we do with what we do, through our community engagement. A lot of that is, our ability to do that. Obviously comes down to a lot of funding, and whether or not we're able to provide the support that our teaching artists need. I think having it be something that young dancers don't have to do outside of the school makes it challenging, but it's also one of the things that I feel like is a great lesson, because you don't have like your school teachers telling you that you have to do this. It's something that you have to take on in your own time. And any thoughts about sort of like managing that? As a young dancer, you're in middle school, you're in high school, you get home, you got to do your homework so you can turn around and head back out the door to dance. And it's one of those sort of like life skills that's so great for young dancers to get.
I can only speak for my son. I know he went through, his hardest period during middle school. It was when he was then going to high school and chose to go to a performing arts school that he really kind of blossomed and had an opportunity to be the person he, is today, because he was surrounded by people who had, faith in him and his abilities to dance, and accepted him as a dancer, not as, this kind of strange freak, for lack of a better word. And that for him was incredible, an incredible opportunity. I don't think he would be where he is today had he not had that opportunity. And that's why I understand, so many kids choose to do online school so that they can dance more and be in a studio where they're surrounded by like-minded people. The unfortunate part is that we have to do that, that it's not a part of more curriculums. Because I agree, I think if there was more opportunity for young people, and I mean young people, to experience dance, there would be less of the stigma. I think it would erode over time as they became more and more familiar with it.
It's terrific, and in a world where so many kids are just hooked on devices and never leave their house, just the examples of all of these men pursuing their dreams is something that needs to be shown.
Woo!
And wonderful comments. I think everyone heard it.
Thank you very much.
Plans.
Yeah, I mean, the goal has always been from day one of me making this film that it was never for kind of mass release in a theater. It was never going to, it was never going to be a Michael Moore type of documentary. But it was my intention was always for it to be educational. It was always for it to generate conversations much like this, which is why I've released it kind of the way that I have, where all of the screenings are in partnership, either with a ballet company or sponsored by a community where we can engage in these conversations. So yes, the hope is that more schools and institutions of learning will latch on to that. We've had several already, and my hope is that we'll continue to be able to do so in the future. But that has always been the goal, is to use it as a resource. And what was, one thing that makes me feel good about having produced what I produced was just recently we screened in Chicago, and a member of the panel was non-binary, and we had an incredible discussion about transgender people dancing and how applicable this film even was to them. And when I made it, I certainly didn't, I wasn't thinking that far ahead. I was thinking, more myopically about my son, really, and his story, which isn't told in the film, but is told through the other 24 dancers. And it's only through hearing their stories that you understand how applicable it is for so many other things. And so yes, that is my goal and my hope that more and more schools will latch on to the film and use it as a resource. So you see another hand?
There's a moment where boys and girls, they're training almost parallel, like almost at the same time. And there's a moment where the girl goes in one direction and the man goes in a different direction. The man starts to work in his jumps and in his turns and like body building to be able to lift the ladies, and the ladies they start to work on the point shoes and other aspects that are going to develop her side of her career. So it is very even, but at the same time, each one has their own difficulties and their training that it's important for their careers.
Making a documentary is an entirely different animal than making a dance film. And what I tried to do, hopefully successfully, is marry the two. So I let the little interludes that separate the three kind of main sections of the film be broken apart by these dances that I had specifically asked the dancers to dance about their experience. So there's a portion where John Lamb is doing a dance, and there's a portion where Patrick Burnett is dancing. And all of those, my hope was to capture the essence of dance on film, which is a totally different animal than making a documentary. So
I think you did marry them both really well.
Yeah, it's very hard to convey those kind of emotions in a documentary kind of style, and then you're trying to bring the physical aspect of dance and trying to convey those emotions at the same time with the interview. I mean, I think it was a great job that he did.
And you did all the interviews?
Yes, he did.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay. So was there anything that he asked that you were glad was on the cutting room floor?
Oh, of course. I mean, I think one of the questions, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but the perspectives of a male ballet dancer in relationship to the rest of the culture outside of the dance studio and off the stage, especially in the United States, is very, it's very unique than, let's say, Europe or Asia, where it's even subsidized by the government. So it's a very different approach and a very different art form here in the United States.
Yeah, I wonder about. Did you ever kind of wish that you could go abroad and?
Oh, of course. I mean, there was always talk amongst other dancers, like, oh, if you dance in Europe, you're set. You got health care all set up. You can have a pension. You can really have a career, a sustaining career, not just, oh, I like to dance and I can dance in a company. You feel as if you're a part of something bigger and you're respected more as an artist.
Yeah, I know. I wonder if it'll ever get that way here in the States, if the arts will ever have that kind of...
Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't think it really matters, because there's always going to be people who are just going to dance and going to do the art in which they love and persevere no matter what.
That is very true. And what does your son think about the film, since he was the inspiration?
He loves it. I mean, he's very supportive of it. It was a very cathartic experience, I think, for both of us to go through. Myself as a parent of a bullied child, but also for him, who kind of had to relive it all through the film, but at the same time kind of push through and get over it. So it's been an incredible experience for both of us.
Both got to work through some things.
Yeah.
And what's your next project?
Oh, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I have a couple ideas, but nothing formulated yet. That we'll see.
And you always work in nonfiction?
The next one would definitely be another nonfiction film. Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed it, and thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you.